This is welcome to this webinar. Welcome to this webinar titled uh, titled Principles of Leadership for Principles by engineer Gamini Nanda Gunawardena. This is the third in our series presented by Project Transform, and I cordially invite Mr. Gamini Gunawardena to our webinar today. Before he presents, I would like to give a quick introduction to Engineer Gunawardena. Engineer Gunawardena, Gamini Nanda Gunawardena, is the Managing Director of Saga Resource Development Consultants Limited, is a chartered mechanical engineer with vast experience in leadership and organizational development. He has guided numerous public sector corporations, ministries, and global donor agencies such as IFC, FAO, and USAID. A graduate of the University of Peradeniya with a Bachelor of Science, Engineering Honours degree, and the University of Colombo, where he earned his MBA, Engineer Gunawardena specializes in IT, internet security, and wireless communication solutions. He has lectured at the University of Peradeniya, authored the Daily Mirror column Sixth Sense, and leads the student development program Sisu Savia. From this profile, you will understand and appreciate that Mr. Gunawardena is a great resource, great and appropriate resource person to speak to us today on the topic of leadership for principles, basically principles of leadership for principles. So without further ado, Mr. Gunawardena, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. So today our topic is how, as principals, school principals, especially as professionals engaged in education, how you are going to use leadership principles to leverage to deliver better results. How I am going to do my presentation is basically I would like to divide this presentation to 4 segments. The first segment, I'm going to focus very much on for a self-introspection. That is to understand better about yourself, who you are. Then why that is important is because the least we know is about ourselves. So this is an opportunity for you to reflect on yourself and to get a better knowledge, further understanding of yourself. Then I'm going to my second section. I'm going to share with you the perspectives, leadership, how we can look at and view leadership, and then the connection of these leadership traits to the world technology trends. And finally, if so, for us to be ready for the leaders for tomorrow, what behaviors do we have to develop? What behaviors we have to improve? That's a kind of ongoing process which you all will have to do, which we will deliberate on. We'll start with this first diagram. This first diagram is about Yukti. I think we'll have to stop for that.
All right.
Yeah. Me.
Right. Okay.
Sorry, this my granddaughter was coming.
That's okay. That's okay.
So I'll start from this one, right?
Yes.
Okay. So why I shared this slide is basically this is, you can see a frog in a well. The frog seems to be very comfortable with what he has been going through. He has enough lotus to eat, insects to eat, and he get enough sunshine, and he can have a belly full, and he can be very lethargic or lazy. All of us in different forms, all of us are going through our life in this form. Because we have been used to a passive, comfortable life, we think that is our world. And probably maybe we don't want to look at it in a different perspective. We don't want to realize new challenges. And along with that, lethargy and lack of inertia creeps in. So that may lead for you not to take any challenges not to take up any, face new opportunities, and you yourself undermine your potential. Not only that, we have been probably maybe until such time that we face this economic downturn in Sri Lanka, we have been having a very, we had a resilience environment, and we Sri Lankans as a nation are also very resilient. So that got more intensified with the environment that was created up to the last economic crisis, and we thought everything is very fine, that will not change. And lastly, why this situation happens is most of the time, if we do a self retrospection and evaluate ourselves, whether we have defined our life purpose is a question. Most of the time, what happens is we get into a routine pattern where we get up early in the morning, and then we get ready to go to office or to the school, and then we go through the normal day-to-day operations or work, and we come back, and again we get back to your role at home, mother or father or whatever it is, and you spend time with children, and then following day morning you again get ready to go to school. And it's not only for this target group. General observation what I have made is based on the number of presentations which I have shared with number of audiences, we are being driven our life without a purpose. So the moment the purpose of our life is clear to ourselves, then the penny drops. So I think that is very, very important in that sense, to get some understanding, line of sight at least through this 1 hour session, what is each and every one of our life purpose is. Now, to get an entry to this my entire presentation, just look at this diagram which you can see. This is by a famous Dutch artist called Rembrandt. It's a very famous painting. Why I took up this is, there are some significant elements you have to notice here. You can see this sail ship is cruising through a heavy, rough sea. The sails are on. On one side, you can see there are sea pirates. On the other side, you can see there are mountains. There can be a lot of dangers there. But even among that rough sea, the unique thing here is the captain has decided to sail through while the sails are on. Generally, we know that people always try to play safe, and if it is going amidst of a storm, they try to down their sails and they try to stabilize themselves before they proceed. But on the other hand, life is not like that. You have to go through challenges. You have to sail through challenges for which you need exceptional leadership qualities. As you can see, there's a saying by John Shedd. He says a ship is always safer to be in the harbor. But that's not what the ship is meant for. So the same way as leaders, if you all are not faced with challenging situation, you will never grow. But you have to have a clear understanding to perform as a leader. What are the tools I have in my possession? What are the areas where I have to concentrate and develop? And if so, what are the gaps I should develop on? So basically, in this case, to take this ship to the destination, captain should know what is the final destination that he needs to take this ship. So if you relate it to your life, it is the purpose in your life. Why you are doing this? You are doing being a school principal or school teacher. Is your whole life is that coming to office, principal's office, and then do the day-to-day activities and then get back, or whether you have a bigger purpose, bigger obligation or responsibility to the society. And to do that, what type of mental resilience, mental strength, skill that you should have. And maybe you are lacking certain life skills and competencies. Mostly why we can't develop those life skills and competencies because we do not know that these type of skills and competencies are required. So that's another area we have to focus on. But even having all these, you can't take your ship to the final destination. You need another thing. That is we call a moral compass. A moral compass is that is more or less unique to each one of us. We are being bound by moral values. Those moral values decide under challenging situations what type of actions do we take. Your guiding light would be the moral compass. Hence, it plays an important role in forming an individual, in forming a corporate entity, and in forming even a country. Unfortunately, we Sri Lankans, we don't have as a country, we don't have a moral compass, which I'm happy to say right now we are working on that to see how that message can get through to all the people of this country. But just to draw a parallel, for example, if you look at a country like Singapore, they very explicitly, they say our values are MPH, meritocracy, pragmatism, and honesty. If you look at a country like Japan, very clear, discipline, time conscious, quality. So like that, there are a number of developed countries, they have very clearly defined the values of that unit or the entity that form the synergistic effect of bringing all these people together for some common direction. Now to do this, I'm raising a question. Ask yourself, who are we? Are we human beings having a spiritual experience, or are we spiritual beings having a human experience? Now, this might look a bit of an unorthodox question, probably maybe you have never thought of, but if you, irrespective of the religious connotation, even whether you are a Buddhist, Catholic, Muslim, whatever the religion belief, basically, we talk about in different forms that there is a life transition. It can be from this to heaven, or maybe from previous life to this life to the next life, or whatever it is. So then there is some connection that bind you together. That is not your physical body. That is the spirit that you are bringing in. But unfortunately, in this commercial world, we pay more emphasis onto our physical body, and we undermine the importance and the capabilities of our spirit. In fact, one of the greatest scientists of this era, Albert Einstein, he said, we are serving the servant having forgotten about the God. Where what he refers to is that we basically more focus on delivering and pampering our physical body and totally ignoring the spirit, which is very beautiful, which is very powerful, which can take you to a different dimension. So my whole purpose of this putting up this slide is for you to get to think in this dimension and see. It could be through your own beliefs on religious channels or even otherwise. Even if you don't believe in a religion, that's fine. But just try and see whether, who am I? Is it this physical body I can see, or is there something that I cannot see that controls me? Now, just to drive again, now let's say if you see that a beautiful flower through your eyes, then you might say, this is my eye, right? So where is mine? Where is myself? This is my mouth. This is my nose. So where is myself? So that myself is the one that is connecting all these external peripherals to the individual. So basically, you have this spiritual body in your mind, But when you say mind, the spirit cannot be identified from a physical term or biological terms. Okay, this is where the mind is. But generally, we are used to say, okay, mind is in our brain, but which is not so. But this is what we used to say. But just to draw a parallel for you to understand the human body, this is a very layman's explanation, I would say, because human beings are more complex than a computer. But let's say that we have a computer. Now, you know, this computer can be connected to a number of external devices. Maybe there's a video camera, like what you see me now, or maybe you can hear my sound. So there is external sound collector. So like that, there are a number of external peripherals that can be connected to a computer. For a moment, if we think that the computer is our physical body, these external peripherals are like our sensors, like our eyes, nose, ears, touch, and lips. Then internally, a computer has two important brains. One, we call it the ROM, or the read-only memory, because when you start a computer, when you power on the computer, this ROM is the one which gives power for the computer to come to, okay, I'm ready state. So every time, good old days, every time when you switch on the computer, it stabilizes at the same level. Then we have another thing. Once we switch on the computer, we can start work on our day-to-day work. It could be a spreadsheet, it could be a Word document, whatever it is. All that will stay in the temporary memory. We call it RAM. In other words, nowadays scientists, they call these two. The RAM is somewhat similar to conscious mind, and the ROM is somewhat similar to the subconscious mind. But we have to understand something. When the computer industry developed in early stages, this ROM was permanent and it never changed. But now what has happened is, with the development in the technology, ROM itself can keep on fine-tuning itself, and it can deliver better results. It can fine-tune for better efficiencies. It can fine-tune for better handling, better algorithms, whatever it is. It becomes much more fine-tuned. So we call it the development in the artificial intelligence. So this is a little bit similar to how our brain works. Our brain is also something like that. Based on our past experiences, we try to position our brain. It is not always the same experience that you go every time. Just to drive my point, I said that we form values, right? Values are the part of the moral compass. So the values formation is not only from your current life, this birth, all these your external environment. So right now, you know, you basically get values from parents, peers, media, education, technology, and religion. But not only that, you have ingrained in subconscious mind certain beliefs which you do not see explicitly. Subconscious minds that will have a significant impact on your upbringing. Classic example is, let's say for a moment that there are identical twins. But we know very well, although they are two identical twins and they are being exposed to the same environment externally, their behaviors will not be 100% identical. So the catch is that we, being a spiritual being, we bring in certain amount of our past experiences to our subconscious mind without knowing. All that will have an impact in forming our values. When forming values, each and every one of you have to think, basically to make it easy for you to understand, 4 values can be divided into 3 groups. First group is what I strongly believe in, right? Maybe, probably you can say that I strongly believe in equality, right? All the human beings, they are equal, right? So I do not see any religious, caste, whatever the barriers, right? I believe in justice and fairness. So those are beliefs. Then who am I? Who am I basically gives what type of a person you are. Now that this is very important. What type of a person you are means maybe some of us, we have our own ways of working. Maybe I'm very hardworking. Maybe I'm always, I want to be fair by when I play with everybody. Maybe I'm time conscious, I'm punctual, I empathize with people. So all those are who am I as a person. What will I strive for? Those are the things, that dreams that as an individual that you want to change the world. It's a better place. So you will be continuously working towards that. By doing that, all these things will be converted to behaviors. These inadvertently, without knowing, unconsciously, the things that you value. What is value? Value is something that is of some value to you. In other words, that is what gives you mental satisfaction. In other words, that is the little bit of dopamine dose that gives you some happy moment. So when you get, like the drug addicts, they take drugs to achieve that status. Most of us, we do certain things inadvertently. We know, okay, by doing this, I'm getting a self-satisfaction. So the driving force behind that is these values. And as an example, I have shared some of the values so that it will give you an anchor point when you want to develop your own value. But this is only explanatory. You don't have to use any of these, but if you think certain thing makes sense, you can pick up. So what you believe, what you are, who you are, and what will you strive for. With that, once these values are identified within yourself, how do you reflect these values to the society? Just think for a moment. How do you reflect these values to the society? Because repeatedly, again and again, you develop a certain pattern that you try to repeat those things that you value to do again and again. Now, what happens is, you do not know your personal reality. That means the way you behave, your personal reality will be interpreted by others, your associates, and they form something about you. We call it personality. It's not your personality you define. Others define your personality based on your personal reality. Right? So, now, most of the time, we are being taught, and focus was very much in schools, basically to develop an individual, a student, a physical portion. Right? You have PT classes, you have sports, you have athletics, all that, to develop the physical portion. Then we have another thing called IQ, intelligent quotient. That is again logical and rational decision making. And our education system is 99.9% is based on IQ focus. But as an individual, you are not complete. Now, why it is important for you to understand as principles is, this is the type of people whom you have to deal with. So if you try to develop the PQ and IQ only, there are two other important elements that you have failed to understand. So rather to understand others' elements, first you have to understand where you stand. So this is the whole purpose of sharing this concept. Then on top of that, the emotions, emotional quotient, what I feel, managing ourselves and relationships. How do I respond to, how I am becoming a socially acceptable person, how I handle challenging situations, all that. For which there is a very good book, accepted book called Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. So if any one of you are interested, I suggest that you better purchase that book, or you can even should be able to download the free copy. And there are certain elements you can get from Daniel Goleman. Now, above all is the spiritual intelligence. Spiritual intelligence is basically you try to develop your inner wisdom. To develop your inner wisdom, it happens automatically when you started looking internally yourself. Sometimes people call it third eye, sometimes people call it inner wisdom. So whatever it is not something that you can gain from the environment. Basically, IQ you get from environment, right? EQ to certain extent you get the concepts from the environment, but once you combine spiritual intelligence is having great understanding about yourself, and then when you start doing that, your self-reflection ability on every situation, when you are faced with challenging situations, it's keep on improving. It's beautiful. You will see how focused you are. You will see how the way that you look at, there's a paradigm shift in the way you think. So all that will happen. It's very difficult to put into words and explain. You yourself will have to realize. So spiritual intelligence assessment, basically we know as individuals, when we are facing situations in our day-to-day life, basically we are faced with these type of feelings. We have a feeling of gain, we have a feeling of praise, fame, pleasure, or feeling of loss, blame, obscurity, and pain, right? All that we basically, who has defined this gain? You yourself has defined gain. And because you like it, right? On the other hand, if you do not like it, it can be a loss, right? Let's take for a moment, you might think, as sensible individuals, you might think that being healthy is it's a gain. It is something that you like. But on the other hand, a beggar on the road, he is using a wound on his leg to make his daily living. It's not a gain. It's a loss. Right? Having healthy situation is a loss, because how he lives it, he will sell his wound, and that's how he tries to make his daily living. So the point what I'm trying to drive at is there is no universal definition of this gain is gain for everybody. This praise is praise for everybody. So that depends on the each and everyone's individual thinking, and the guiding factor is our subconscious mind to what extent we have tuned it. Now to drive this point further, let's see, I'm taking a small example. There's a couple, husband and wife, loving couple. And there's a fruit called durian. Now, durian has a very strong smell. And some of us probably may like it to the health. That strong smell, we like it to the health. Some totally reject it. Let's say, for example, husband is very much in favor of durian. Wife is totally against of durian smell. So is it something to do with the durian fruit, or is it something to do with the individual? Think for yourself. Durian fruit is same to everybody, to this husband and this wife, or to the rest of the world. It is the durian fruit. It does not change its properties. But the way each one of us perceives signals from the external environment, that creates likes and dislikes within ourselves. Once it creates likes and dislikes within ourselves, if we are not emotionally intelligent, we will have situations faced we find difficult to manage. Now, probably if the husband is very much fond of it, he would want to prolong that smell, and he would want to have the longest period that satisfaction. Whereas wife might get fed up and say, you better eat it and throw out these things because I can't stay here. I don't like this. So this leads to a conflict. This leads to a different way of looking at problems. So for which, this is why it is important. This Daniel Goleman's book basically talks about 4 stages how you can develop your emotional intelligence. You should be good enough to identify self-emotions. Now, it is much easier than done. To say it is much easier than done, because most of the time we do not know our emotions. And sometimes we relook at and we see, okay, unnecessarily I got angry. Unnecessarily I reacted to that situation. So this is what this inner wisdom brings you. The moment you get that emotional feeling, before your physical body reacts, you make a mental judgment and then you basically moderate your behavior. So this is why it is very important to identify self-emotions. Probably you all would have heard that when you are in an angry situation, stress-up situation, before responding, count 1 to 10 or 1 to 100 or whatever it is. But that is by that time already your internal engine has started working. Now, to draw some parallelism, maybe you all have seen probably good old days, the cars, or maybe even today, these two-wheeler tractors. How do they start these two-wheeler tractors? They just put a crankshaft and then they turn it, and then only the engine starts. Good old days, cars were also started like this. Now, the same thing happens in your mind without knowing, but of course, it happens pretty fast. But when you develop slowly your emotional intelligence, before it happens, you know where to stop that cranking. Where to stop that cranking, you know, so that your emotion will not get developed to a situation that goes out of control. So that you can do a self-evaluation and accordingly you can do a self-expression of yourself, moderate behavior, and by doing that, you are trying to empathize with others. Right? And it is not always to get into other shoes, although you generally it says this empathy is getting into other shoes, but you try to look at it in a more holistic manner, realistic manner, and say why you should get into, whether it is worthwhile to get into this argument or to get into this discussion. And probably you might decide, okay, that you have to be silent. But in your case, being principals, probably it is different because your audience is students, those who are at a much lower level than your level of understanding of life, and it is your responsibility to guide them. So to that extent, you have to empathize with them and you have to see how you can connect with them, resonate with them. Again, I have given the name of the book, Daniel Goleman. Try and see whether you can literally go through that. So that is about to a great extent of understanding yourself. Then I am bringing in another important element before I go to the section 2. This is about the learning cycle. Unless otherwise we are continuous learners, we will never progress. There is a saying, the day you start perishing is the day you stop growing. The day you start perishing is the day you stop growing. When do you stop growing? The day you stop learning. So learning cycle, here you can see there are 4 quadrants. The first quadrant is called unconscious incompetence. I would like to use these Sinhala words because maybe probably most of you will understand Sinhala because that resonates with you, I know. This unconscious incompetence is dannet naha, danneti bawa dannet naha. Right? So most of the time when we are taking decisions, we are in this comfort zone because we do not know that we do not know. For example, let's say if you have never seen a vehicle, motor car, and if you have never seen that someone is driving a motor car, you do not know that there's a skill called driving is required. So you're very comfortable by going on the bullock cart. Right? So you're very comfortable. But the moment you see that someone is driving a car, you get conscious incompetence. Danne nati bawa danna. Conscious incompetence, you get transferred to conscious incompetence and you feel insecure. You feel world is changing. I do not know this. You feel insecure. Now then what happens? As a sensible individual, then what do you do? You should try to learn. Then you will go to a learning school and you will try to learn. So that is conscious competence. Danna bhava danna. Conscious competence means, let's say when you are an elbow driver, consciously you are focusing on it because you don't want to get distracted by listening to radio or by taking the phone. 100% your focus is on driving. So you have developed through practice, doing again and again, you have developed the conscious competence. And after that, now you have become an expert. Then you are getting transferred to unconscious competence. Unconscious competence means it has become a behavior of. This, if you take the same example, when you become expert drivers, for you to, although it is not advisable for you to answer the phone, you don't see that it is risky as such. Definitely you can listen to a song on the radio. So you have developed the conscious competence. This is how in our life we learn new skills. First two areas are very painful, then you get the comfort, then again the same cycle continues for another skill. Now through this presentation, of course, I will not have to take time to take you all through stages 3 and 4. I am just only sharing the concepts. It is up to you by yourself to make it a behavior of yours. Then at the end, that behavior will lead to change your personality. So that is how it happens. You move from comfort to insecurity, then from insecurity to confidence, and then to security. And then by doing it repetitively again and again, you become an expert in that area. So with that, basically I covered to give you a glimpse of, I would say, because if you are trying to understand about yourself, we can talk about that hours and hours, not only talking about hours and hours. You may have to keep on practicing that for not days, weeks, months. You have to keep on practicing to have a gradual self-realization. But at least now, you know, there are concepts like this. There are something that we have not focused on the spirit. That is something we have to put the focus. And there's a skill called, we ourselves will have to develop also emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence, which we did not focus. And the lifelong learning cycle is what? So with that, we finish the section 1. Now we move on to the second section. This second section video is in Sinhala, but this drives a very, very important message. I have picked up this clip from an award-winning teledrama. Probably, maybe you all would have watched this, called Suthu Endagana Kalu Evidi. Right? So this is related to your background. This is a school principal and a teacher's discussion. What I will do is I will play the video and then let Mr. Gunasekara explain this in English before I proceed to the next slide.
Gamini, it can't be, I can't hear.
I think probably then we have to maybe
bottom,
we have not shared the
yeah, if you can make the volume at the bottom, if you can, yeah, if you can.
Yeah, I'll have to stop sharing and re-share probably.
Yes, yes, yes. The volume, probably you need to put the volume up. Maybe you have put the volume down in the video.
There's here. Wait. Share sound. Okay, I have not on the share sound. Okay, I'm going to play from beginning where you see.
Please, yes. Please, yes.
මේ ස්කෝලේ රැක ගන්න ඕනේ සර් ටයිමට විතර සර් ඇයි මිනිස්සු නිහඬ? ඒක නේද ප්‍රශ්නේ.
අපි රැක ගන්න හදන ගමේ ළමයිගේ අනාගතේ.
අපි ගොඩනගපු ශ්‍රී ලාංකික මිනිස්සයා යැපෙන්නේ නයනානන්ද.
කවුද සේ යැපෙන මිනිස්සුව ගොඩ නැගුවේ?
අපිමයි. අපේ පාසලමයි. වැඩිකාරයෝ අපි. ගුරුවරයාගේ කරේ එල්ලිලා ඒ මත යැපෙමින් විභාග පාස් කරන්න. ඒ ළමයා වැඩිහිටියෙක් වෙලත් හොයන්නේ එල්ලෙන්න වැලක්. යැපෙන්න අදහසක්. පහුගිය අවුරුදු 70 තිස්සේම අපි ඉගෙනුවේ කාගෙන් හරි යැපිලා ජීවත් වෙන්න. ගුරුවරයෙක් කියන්නේ පාසල් ළමයෙකුගේ මිත්‍රයෙක්, සහෝදරයෙක්. ඒ මිත්‍රයා, ඒ සහෝදරයා පාසල් ළමයෙකුට ස්වාධීනව නැගිටින්න උදව් කරලා තියෙනවා. එහෙම ළමයෙක් අපි ගොඩනගලා තියෙනවා.
නෑ සර්. අපි හැමදාම ගොඩ නැගුවේ නොපෙනෙන අනන්තයට හත දාගෙන දුවන්න දක්කන දරුවෙක් වගේ.
ඒ ළමයි අද වැඩිහිටියෝ. ඒ වැඩිහිටියන්ට ස්වාධීන මතයක් තියෙනවද? කාගෙන්ද මේ වැඩිහිටියෝ අද යැපෙන්නේ?
ඇස්තරලා බැලුවා මේ ඇත්ත හොඳට පේනවා සර්.
ස්වාධීන නිදහස් ළමයෙක් ගොඩනගනකම් අපේ රට කාගෙන් හරි යැපෙනව නයනානන්ද.
මේ ජීවිත කාලෙදිවත් අපිට ඒක කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙයිද සර්?
තව ජීවිත 4-5ක් හරි අරගෙන ඇවිත් ඒක කරන එක නයනානන්දලගේ යුතුයකමක්, වගකීමක්.
Mr. Gunasekara?
Yes, Mr. Gunawardhan, thank you. So in this video, as Mr. Gunawardhan mentioned, there's a conversation between the principal, who is in the picture here, and a teacher. And the teacher accosts the principal and asks the principal, who is going to save this school? Is it only you and me? And the principal responds saying, see, Mr. Teacher, the question is like, who is being responsible for this? And the principal goes on to say that over the 70 years, I'm basically giving a very brief summary of the conversation. The principal says over the last 70 years, over the previous 70 years, what the student that we have produced is a student is somebody who is dependent. So the principal says the teacher is actually a friend of the student, and the teacher must help the student to become independent, to think freely for himself or herself. And instead of doing that, both the principal and the teacher agree that what we do in our education system is basically take the child or get the child to run to basically without thinking or anything, run towards exams and passing exams. So the child, the student, doesn't really get to think for himself or herself and to be independent. So what the principal says is that until we build a free thinking and independent student, that Sri Lanka will always be a dependent country. And then the teacher asks, well, when will that happen? And the principal says, well, it will take a long time. And it is your responsibility to do this as teachers. And if it might take a few more lifetimes for you to come back and do this and carry out this responsibility. And then that's the end of this clip. Mr. Gunawardhan, over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right. So now, so this is connected to the previous video. So it implies that the responsibility is, because you all being principals, school teachers, the younger generation listens to you. Younger generation, you can guide, you can mold them. So for which you should know what are leadership skills that is required. Now, when we talk about leadership, it is a very common, very, I would say, a hack topic. There are so many people, those who are talking about leadership. But let me put a frame to it with this story. A group of blind people were brought in to touch an elephant and explain what an elephant looks like. So each one of them, they did not touch the entire elephant. Each one of them, they just connected to the areas where they touched. The person who touched the trunk said it's a snake. The person who touched the leg said it's like a elephant is like a tree. So that is the interpretation. So the same way, there are a number of leadership theories. I'm not saying none of those are wrong, but that depends on the focus area where you want to focus on. There are certain elements are being highlighted. So because I'm sharing certain elements today, that may not be the comprehensive full picture, but I would say I am trying to cover in general most dominant two characteristics that is going to be helpful to you as leaders to see how you are going to perform at different situations when you are faced with. With that, this is a behavior. You can see in the horizontal axis, we have a time scale, and on the vertical axis, we have a breadth of responsibility, right? Breadth of responsibility on the vertical scale, and the horizontal scale is a time scale. Then all of us are doing our day-to-day work, I would say, either on transactional orientation, which you can see in this gray color one, starting from top, coming down, where there is a worm, or we do certain things on the other way around, transformational orientation. In your sphere, to explain this, let's say that you have a let's say security guard at your schools. Now, this security guard's work at the end of the day to lock the premises and to ensure that everything is protected. Security guard work is very, very important in the short term. So the short term, the breadth of responsibility is very high for the role of the security guard. Because what happens is if we fail to lock the gates, probably maybe the cattle might come in and damage the entire garden. So that it can have an impact. But long term, the impact can be minimized. How? By bringing in rules, regulation, processes, systems, automations, all that you can minimize that effect. For example, you can put just a logbook for the security guard to sign. Once he closed the classroom block A, he has to sign and put the time. Classroom block B, so that he will be compelled to. On top of that, you can bring in technology. You can have CCTV cameras. So all these things you can basically bring in and then control. So this type of people who will have a worm's eye view. Worm's eye view means you can see what the problem, what is in front of you. Short term, this type of work is important, but the long term value addition to the society is very less. On the other hand, there are certain type of jobs. Initially, the impact is very small, but long term, the impact that is going to create to the society is very high. As principals, this is where your main responsibility is. It is not just to ensure that the teacher's attendance is monitored, which those are important. I'm not saying no, but you should not limit yourself. Maybe probably 10% of your time can be allocated to day-to-day activities, operational and maintaining the logbooks, maintaining the attendance, and all that. On top of that, really, you are creating a future for this country. If I may draw a parallelism to this, I have worked with a number of corporate entities. At a particular corporate entity, when we want to recruit a management trainee, it was a rule given by the CEO to say, I must be at the interview panel. So the CEO CEO used to always sit in the interview panel to ensure that the correct people are selected for management trainees position. Whereas he may not interview sometimes even a senior manager. But management trainees, he was very particular. Can you all guess what is the reason behind? Think about it. His justification was very simple. He says, I am not recruiting a trainee. I am recruiting a future CEO. I am recruiting today a future CEO. So I want to ensure and satisfy myself that he has the basic ingredients to be groomed to a future CEO. So this is exactly what you all are doing as principals. So you have the responsibility not only to teach us, not only to students, you have the responsibility and accountability to teachers also. You are their mentor, you are their coach. Even to develop teachers, you can give individual mentoring, individual coach. So your responsibility is very much into transformational focus. I know most of the organizations we fail to understand. So now when you are aware of this, you can see how you can streamline and allocate your time so that you spend more time productively for the future. Basically, these are the elements of a transactional leader and a transformational leader. Transactional leadership is responsive, right? If the security guard fails to, or the watchman fails to close the gate, you're going to respond to that and you will punish him. But transformational leader is more proactive. You see before the problem happens, you see. So all of us in our life, we take these two roles. But the irony of it is sometimes we fail to understand the importance of transformational leadership. We focus 90% of your time on transactional leadership. So I don't intend to go one by one. Basically, this slide is very clear. So you have to see whether there are areas as principles that you have to improve on. If not, you can develop your own action plans to work on that. There is one element here says motivate followers by appealing to their own self-interest, right? So the transactional leader is trying to ensure followers are motivated to achieve my goals. But whereas a transformational leader is trying to motivate them by showing them what they can achieve, being more productive. In fact, I'm throwing these names so you all can do internet search, YouTube videos. There are a lot of learnings you can get from corporate worlds. There was a highly respected individual called Jack Welch. Jack Welch was recognized as the manager of the century for the contribution he has given to that particular company, GE Group. He increased within 20 years' time market capitalization of GE Groups from $25 billion to $525 billion. It's unimaginable. Once he was confronted at a discussion and asked from the audience, I have two people in my team. They are smarter than me. How can I handle them? How many people are there in your team? Well, I have 10. You have got 8 wrong people. The question was to say, I have 2 people smarter than me. How can I handle them? His answer is to say, you have got 8 wrong people. This is very, very pertinent because sometimes, although they are young, maybe there are a number of individually smart students, those who you would have come across, right? But sometimes, without failing to understand that, you would have ruined their futures. In fact, personally, I have noticed that I have faced some of those situations, both ways, positively and negatively. I can, without any hesitation, I can say who I am today due to teachers, and there's a particular teacher who changed my life cycle, who understood my potential and who groomed me. The same way as a parent, as a father, I have realized how some teachers has tried to ruin my children's future. So you have a great responsibility to ensure how you transform and you be a coach, you be a mentor, you be a friend to students as well as to your co-teachers. Now, when you do that, basically, this is another interpretation. You can work in the transactional or the transformational focus. There are some people, those who are not good at transactional, transformational, they are just contributors. They can just do the day-to-day thing. It could be in your school staff. There may be people, those who are doing cleaning, maybe those who are preparing tea, maybe those who are doing gardening. All those people may fall into this contributor type. And some of your teachers, again, you can't, everyone won't be a leader, everyone won't be a transformational leader. Some of your teachers, maybe they are very good managers, in the sense they are very good subject matter expert, they are good math teacher, X, Y, and Z. So they will do that job perfectly, but they don't have the potential to understand shifting that to the transformational focus. So you should be smart enough to understand those people. No point trying to push everyone. If you have 50 teachers, no point trying to push everyone to be a transformational leader. They will not be. So pick and choose, and selectively you should groom the relevant people. And definitely, as a leader, you have you're playing a strategic role. You play transformationally. You play transaction. Of course, very few of you all will be visionary leaders. It is not in the arena of principles. In any profession, even if you get, there are only very few visionary leaders in a country. Visionary leaders they don't see boundaries. They see things far beyond that most of us can see. Just for you to understand what the type of a visionary leader is, for example, John F. Kennedy said that I want to land a man on the moon. At that time, they never thought of that this could be done. Now, he had a vision to say that there is nothing impossible. The same way, if you all are familiar with, nowadays there is a businessman called Elon Musk. Now, Elon Musk he is saying that by 2035, he want to populate Mars. Now, these are people, to most of us, these are the people might look crazy. But those are the visionary leaders who will change a system. Among you all, there might be few who can change the entire education system upside down. Right? Just to give you a clue, before we came into, I have nothing against the British education system, but just before the British education system comes into this country, we had a very, very developed Pirivena-based education system that was totally undermined. But if you are smart enough, you should be able to pick up some of these good elements, where they talk about the spirit, where they talk about the connection of it, and we should be able to contribute more. Same happens with the medicine. We had our own healthcare system, we had our own medicines, but that is undermined. So it's up to you whether you want to be a visionary leader, whether you want to be a strategic leader. But definitely as principal, I don't think you should be a manager. Right. Again, these are detailed explanation how you transit from being a managerial leader to visionary leader or a strategic leader. I don't have to explain one by one. We have to manage the time also. But you can take your time and go through this. Definitely you will be very clear on this. These are again parameters, what a managerial leader, how it will be behave, and the job role, and then as a strategic leader, how do you believe a shared vision of what the organization is to be. That is important. A strategic leader also should say a shared vision. Why? If you fail to share a vision with your community, we call it the vision community, creating a vision community, you will not have followers. Without followers, you won't be a leader. Just draw a parallelism. Now, recently concluded election. What was the vision statement shared by the current incumbent president? He said, "Pohosat ratak lassana jeevitaya." And there was an English word also, but the Pohosat ratak and lassana jeevitaya resonate more to most of us rather than saying rich country and better life. Right? So when you say better life, all of us are part of it. So we want to be part of it. So this is why, as a leader, something that you have to do. You have to get everyone aligned to a common goal. So the same thing was done by most of the successful leaders. For example, I have a dream. That was
Martin Luther King Jr.
Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous one is, he said, "I have a dream." That's how he managed to rally people around him for a common cause. So this is very, very important. Please don't undermine creating the vision community. When visionary leaders, I explain. So with that, basically I covered general elements of leadership. I would say this is a very, very compartmentalized area, but generally you can apply. There are a number of other leadership development models. Probably if you're interested, you can follow through and you can learn. Called situational leadership, autocratic leadership, authentic leadership, like that. Different thing, leadership. That's a focus area is different because human mind is so complex. You can't just put everything onto one platter and explain. Now we are going to the third segment of the presentation. Now, once you develop these leadership qualities, you have to see whether these leadership qualities are adequate for you to guide your team with the development in the world. Because you are supposed to, as principal, you are supposed to develop knowledge, skills, attitude. If so, you should first know. Otherwise, you become very comfortable. So I am not going to share all the details on this one. This is on the internet. Probably Mr. Gunasekara can put even on the recording the link on the video. Now these are glimpses of the technology that is being developed, which you have to be. You don't have to be master of any of these things, but you have to know the trends so that you can guide and see the potential. So I am going to play couple of minutes of this video and we will move on to the next slide.
Number 1, artificial intelligence. Even though artificial intelligence, or AI, has generated a lot of buzz over the past 10 years, it is still one of the newest technological trends because its effects on how we live, work, and play are just beginning to be felt. Adaptive AI systems aim to continuously retrain models and learn within runtime and development environments based on new data to adapt quickly to changes in real-world circumstances that were not foreseen or available during initial development. The largest companies already use artificial intelligence technology to predict demand and provide users with relevant information. Its evolution began about a decade ago, and there are arguments on whether AIs can replace humans. AI is well known for its superiority in many fields, including ride-sharing apps, smartphone personal assistants, image and speech recognition, navigation apps, and more. Other AI tools include customer relationship management tools, content corrector and generator tools, data analytics tools, and much more. Elon Musk has said he fears artificial intelligence could one day outsmart humans and endanger us, citing AI as the biggest threat to civilization.
I'll stop you there. Now, probably, as leaders, as teachers, those who are responsible for future, if someone says AI, if it is clueless to you, you are not doing justice to your audience, your stakeholders. So you don't have to be a master of it. You can be from science background, arts background, commerce background, it does not matter. Because, for example, for you to drive a motor car, you don't have to be a motor car mechanic. So the similar way, you should have some kind of understanding. What is this AI? What can it do? Then only you can see the potential and guide it. How I can use it for my school administration, how I can use it for developing additional knowledge to students, whatever the way. So like that, there are about 7 or 8 facets that this video is talking about. I'm not going to play any of those things. We will move to the next slide.
Of connected cars. Number 1. artificial intelligence. Connected car.
Right. Why the government is spending money for education? Now, you should have the ownership. Right now, if you all do not know, if you all are like frog in the well, if you all think that our responsibility just to do the curriculum and create the students, you are not being fair by the taxpayers' money. Basically, government is spending money to ensure that through that education, all of them will contribute to a better living standard for the people of this country. How they can ensure better living standard to the people of this country is they have to get engaged in revenue generating jobs. Right now, for political reasons, the number of successive governments, they have kept on increasing the government sector cadre beyond the capacity. In fact, in 2008, the prediction was 800,000 manpower cadre was too big for Sri Lankan economy. But for political gains, successive politicians, they increase it to 1.5 million. Now it's a time to stop it. If so, we have to understand that giving knowledge is not to get an education or a job. It is the responsibility of the people, those who are getting the knowledge, to facilitate and make others' life better. So how could they do that? For which they have to be entrepreneurs. They have to see how they can add value to the society. Now we faced with this economic crisis in 2022. This is a snapshot of it, because what has happened is we have been importing number of goods and services than the capacity we were exporting. So related to your own personal life, if you are spending more than what your monthly earning, after some time, what will happen? You will have to start borrowing money on interest. When you see, okay, that borrowing money on interest is also not going to solve your problem, then you may have to dispose some of your assets, right? So this is exactly a larger scale what has been happening to the country. So, so that is why I'm emphasizing this. It is not just educating and giving the knowledge to the students, creating the right attitude among the students. Not that it is not necessary for them to be submissive always. They could be daredevil. They could be taking challenges. They could be ready to challenge the status quo. So those are the people who will change this world. And those are the people who will be entrepreneurs. So please focus on and the importance of these slides when you are developing future workforce of this country. And this is a cross-section of how we generate revenue. 58% services. This is not acceptable. We don't have food security because it's only about 70% we get 7% we get food security. So all these things, when we say a farmer, it is not the good old days, our ancestors that they used to take the mammoty and go to the paddy field and they develop. Now the technology is developed so fast and we can have highly educated entrepreneurial farmers, right? And they are running hundreds and thousands of acres of farmland. I have a personal friend of mine who is a professor in a Japanese university in IT. Every year, 6 months, he comes to Sri Lanka and I have personally visited. He has taken over a barren land and he himself has dug deep wells. He himself 100-acre land and he himself has created a large lake of 5 acres and he has started cultivating mangoes. Now he is exporting these mangoes to Japan. Now his next stage is he is going to, around that, he is going to develop ecotourism to bring in Japanese investors to the country. Now you see the way people are looking at it. He's a farmer in that context. But he is a much more advanced farmer. He uses AI technologies for irrigation systems, drip irrigations, and he used latest breeding varieties. All that is done. So this is the future you have to be aware of. You have to share with your stakeholders or students and the teachers. Another important area is our education system is very much was focused on creating competition among the classmates. It goes so much to that extent. I used to humorously tell sometimes, if you have your son or daughter and your sister's son and daughter in the same class, you want your son to be better than your sister's son. You try to compete. You think the competition to your son is your arch enemy is your sister's son. It's totally wrong. We have to understand now the world is changing. World is very much focusing on, instead of competition, collaboration. So collaboration, to cater to collaborative environment, now this new education system is focusing on STEAM education. STEAM means basically you get them to do group projects, where each one has bring in their own competencies. It's a combination of science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. For example, if you are given the students a project to develop a prototype of a plane, someone who is very good at arts, they might do the sketches of the propeller and the plane outlook. Then someone who is good at technology, they might look at the wind force and all that and improve on it. Then someone who is good at mathematics, they give their contribution. It's a joint project, not to talk about who is better, but to look at the more focus on the end product, which is very important to understand when you look at the Eastern and the Western education system. Now, if we talk about the Western, we know, okay, there is Bill Gates, there is Nikola Tesla. So like that, all these names come up. But if you talk about the Eastern countries, very rarely we talk about individual names. We do not know who is the chairman of Honda company. We do not know who is the chairman of Toyota company, because it is team effort and they recognize, and this is the approach if you want to create successful entrepreneurs in this country, for which you have a very big ownership in doing and responsibility. Connecting to the, like what that in that video, it is your responsibility to create that future that we want. So with that, our education system was initially based on reading, writing, arithmetic, and we were focused on knowledge, skills, and attitude. But the future generation, the skill set is very much more than that. Attitude, when you talk about attitude, it's not how they speak to the teachers. It's not just this respect that you want to the students should show to the teachers. It's much more deeper than that. It is self-control and a passion for and driving for something and the perseverance. So with that, the education area is changing to developing on these 4 pillars: communication skills, collaborative skills, critical thinking skills, and creativity and innovation skills. Of course, I know as principals, probably, maybe you all don't have the freedom to that extent to change this curriculum and do that. But when the time comes, one way you can contribute and you can give your feedback for curriculum revision. And on the other hand, most of the schools have other activities, clubs, sports clubs, extracurricular activities clubs, through which you can promote. I know personally some of my grandchildren, they're going through some of these classes, and they talk about AI. They are in the grade 4, grade 5. They get onto the computer and they can use Microsoft PowerPoint, Word, all that they can use. So it is sometimes unfair, sometimes peripherals. They don't see this. It is very important for you to be the change of that. And each one of you all can do this. Just to share with you, these days, it is very popular on TV. There is a teledrama called Amuthu Dostara. Right? I would urge you to look at that. Now, it's a different character, very strong character, how we change the entire hospital within his purview. The same thing that you all can do. And I know that's for sure, because I myself has associated that type of teachers during my childhood. So focus on these 4 areas: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, creative, and innovation. Now, to do that, you have to understand there is a step process in developing your skills. Basically, at any level, you are managing, as you can see on this right-hand side, operational excellence. That is to manage your operations, to ensure that the class runs smoothly, the facilities are available, all that. That is your operational excellence. People excellence means how good you are in interpreting and getting work done through your teachers, minor staff, and how good you are in becoming a fatherly or motherly figure to the children. And strategic excellence is definitely looking at something differently rather than just getting constrained by the AR and FRs of the government. You can do within that framework a lot of things. And when you start, maybe you are first at the individual contributor level. Probably maybe you can be a first, after training, you come as a graduate teacher or trained teacher. That is the individual contributor level, your contribution. Then maybe you can be a sectional head. Then you can be I don't know, beyond that, maybe a large area, primary school head. Then you can be the principal of the entire school, right? Then you can be the direct education. So depends on that, the type of skills that is required varies. Now I started my first section about the self-awareness. This is very critical. Most of the time, we, without knowing the self-awareness, without having the self-awareness, we try to develop other skills, right? So I am not going to go into detail all these skills, but it is very obvious. At the first level, it is self-management skills that is important. First line manager means getting the task that is important. Middle manager means getting the work done through people important. Then having the strategic outlook is becoming more important. It's a transition of the skill set. It's a combination of skills, but you keep on adding on additional skills that is required for life. Right, with that, I have covered section 3. And of course, you have to understand this is a very deep topic. Mr. Gunasekara has given me only 1 hour, so probably it might exceed more than that. But I am trying to give you all just the glimpse of it on learning cycles, the first 2 elements, to understand the gravity of leadership and how that can be related to your life. Now we are going to the 4th section. Through the 4th section, I am trying to share with you is certain things for you to do based on this, using this knowledge. So that knowledge will add and that will get reaffirmed with you and that will change your behavior. So we'll see what are the types of work that you can do on your own. Right. Who said this word? That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. When Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, he said this. So probably you might think, how I am going to learn all these things, how to master all these things. The humorous way, how to eat an elephant. How to eat an elephant. Take a bite at a time. So when you keep on eating bite at a time, the elephant will be finished. The same way, if you do not want to change your behavior or every day, even after 1 to the power 365, it is 1. But if you change your behavior 0.01% every day, now let's say if you want to allocate, you make a conscious decision, I want to allocate 10 minutes of my time for self-understanding, or to go through internet and do something productive to get some YouTube videos that might add value. So it is 0.01% of your day's time, 5 minutes. And end of the year, what's the impact? You have developed yourself almost 38 times. 0.01% has developed yourself 38 times. On the other hand, if you become lethargic and if you reduce your performance by 0.01%, at the end of the period, you become nobody. Right? So this is a main problem we have faced with the government servants sometimes. There are good people, there are good professionals, but on the other hand, they are harming themselves than harming the society. Their value goes down. So this is the message you have to share with your teachers, and you have to lead by examples. Model the way is the one very important principle of leadership. Then to be a successful leader, define your values and identify what your values and how you are going to display those values through behaviors. Here I have given this Mother Teresa, humility. This explanation is given, does not mean you think less of yourself. It means you think of yourself less. Integrity means being honest to others and being true to yourself. Coincidentally, most of the corporate senior executives, even, they don't know the difference between integrity and honesty. They think it is same, but it is not so. This is your true self is reflected in integrity, not because you are behaving in a particular manner to satisfy others. So like that, identify your behaviors and connect and align your working to that behaviors, then you will be a worthwhile principal, worthwhile human being, worthwhile citizen for this country. Then this is another concept called Johari window. What this Johari window says is, sometimes, again, this is another tool for you to understand about yourself better. Here, just pictorially, it is represented. There is a house with 4 rooms, and there are 2 people called Joe and Harry. So there is one room, room number 1, Joe also can see through, Harry also can see through. We call it in our life, when we have human transactions, open area. When, to the extent that when I'm open to my associates, it's very easy to develop relationships. Then there are some areas, it is seen only to room number 2 is only seen to Joe, but not to Harry. Room number 3 is either of them can't see. Room number 4, Harry can see, Joe can't see. So our objective in life is to be as much as transparent. If we are, we do not have double standard behaviors. As much as possible, if we can be open to our associates, this is how you can empathize with others and how you can develop good relationships. Probably you may be worried, what is this black box, room number 3? Room 3 is sometimes we have our own inherent qualities, skills, knowledge. Sometimes we might die even without recognizing that. But sometimes when you are being shaken out, when you face an unexpected situation, some of those skills might blow. There are people, those who have gone down the drain, and they come back strongly because they realize they have something within themselves to fight back and learn. So that is sometimes situational, but if you make a strong conviction, you can again reduce that unknown area as well in your life. Then, if any one of you are interested again further knowing about yourself, I have given the link also. You can go through and do this test for yourself. That will give again another perspective about your personality. Whether you are a dominant character, whether you are an outgoing, people-oriented person, task-oriented, so that you know, this is my dominant characters, right? But that does not mean you are 100% that. It's a mix of all others, but that is your dominant, prevalent behavior. So you can see how you want to moderate your behavior. Knowingly, you take corrective actions to correct yourself. This I explained. I don't want to spend time on that. And finally, have your own picture of yourself. This is what I always believe. I think I am handsome and lovable. May not be to you. But if I don't think I'm handsome and lovable, how can definitely I can be handsome and lovable to you all? No. So first believe in myself. I am kind and loving. I may not be probably sometimes, but I am trying to improve on that. And I work in this. So I have the signature also. And this is the mindset I want to position myself to say, this is so-and-so. So it is up to you again to create this one. And maybe this can be kind of a vision board that's pasted in your office or in your classroom or home or whatever it is. that will align when you have this constant message regularly, that will align yourself to perform better, to be a better person, better citizen, and a better mentor, better coach. And we do all this seeking for happiness. What is happiness? We'll just look at this video. I think we have come to the almost end of the presentation.
Society tells us the way to be happy is to achieve our goals. Get that great job, earn that money, get a good body, find a partner, have happy, healthy kids, have a big house, have a nice car, have holidays. Goal, 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 goal. And it's true that if you do actually manage to achieve these goals, then there is a little moment of joy and happiness. But how long does it last? How long before you're looking at the next goal, and then the next goal, and then the next goal? And as we live our life trying to constantly strive to achieve these goals, one after the other, how tiring and exhausting does it get? Is this you? There is a radically different way to live your life, which is a life based on values, a values-focused life. It's like two kids in the back of a car, and it's a 3-hour car journey to Disneyland. And the first kid is totally goal-focused. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? How much longer? Are we there yet? This journey of frustration, it's all about the goal. The second kid is values-focused. He's got the same goal. He wants to get to Disneyland, but he's also in touch with his values around curiosity, adventure, having fun. So he's looking out of the window, playing I Spy with My Little Eye. He's counting all the, the interesting farmhouses that he sees on the way. He's spotting interesting farm animals, cows and sheep. He's noticing different types of trucks and cars on the freeway. So he's actually appreciating the journey as he heads towards his goal. Now, they both reach Disneyland at the same time. They both have a fantastic time at Disneyland because they both got to achieve the goal. But the first kid had a journey of frustration. The second kid had a fulfilling, rewarding journey. Then on the way home, the first kid, are we home yet? Are we home yet? Are we home yet? All about the goal, all that frustration. Second kid's looking out of the window, noticing how the world looks different at night, spotting the lights in the farmhouses and the cat's eyes on the freeway. The car breaks down on the way to Disneyland. Now, both kids are really disappointed because neither of them achieved their goal. But the second kid at least had a fulfilling journey up until that point. Now, when the pickup truck arrives to tow them home, the first kid, oh, it's not fair. I want to go to Disneyland. How long before the car gets repaired? It's not fair. It's not fair. The second kid starts to notice how the world looks different when you're sitting in the front of a pickup truck high above the level of the rest of the traffic. So this is the very important distinction between the values-focused life and the goal-focused life. In the values-focused life, we have the fulfillment and satisfaction of living our values every step of the way towards our goals, the satisfaction of achieving our goals, and the fulfillment that comes of living our values even when we don't achieve our goals.
So with that, I'm almost at the end of the presentation. Now I have shared certain perspectives, I have shared certain learnings, and now it is your time to see how you are going to pick up this learning and put it into practice. So with that, I will hand over to Mr. Gunasekara to do the concluding remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Gunawardena, for that excellent presentation on leadership. This is a critically important presentation webinar for Project Transform, dear principals, because leadership is something which is lacking, as Mr. Gunawardena also mentioned, not only in Sri Lanka but worldwide. So this presentation is critically important. So on behalf of Project Transform, I would like to thank Mr. Gunawardena for doing this presentation and for sharing his immense knowledge on leadership with all of us today. Before I conclude, I would also want to just make one point. There was a lot of information in this webinar that Mr. Gunawardena shared with you. And what I would invite you to do is to revisit some of those instances on the video, because there's a lot of information, and for you to go through very carefully and see what you can basically download, or basically what you can learn and put it into practice. Because end of the day, it's not about knowledge, but it's all about what we all put into practice. So that is my invitation to you from Project Transform. Please revisit this video, watch it many times over. I have done it myself, and then you will get the maximum benefit of Mr. Gunawardena's wonderful presentation on leadership. So I hope that you will absorb the content of this video and put it into practice and create wonderful, productive entrepreneurs, as Mr. Gunawardena said, for Sri Lanka, and good citizens and entrepreneurs, and who will make this country prosperous, free, and peaceful. So with that, thank you very much. And once again, Mr. Gunawardena, thank you very much for your presentation. And with that, I end this webinar today. Thank you very much for taking part in this webinar.